Hello and welcome to another episode of Utopia Planitia. I'm Teacher Kirby. Turning off the sound behind me. Alright, Teacher Kirby, and joining me are Ain. Say hi, Ain.
Your teacher Kirby turning off the sound behind me. Well, there's no
Yeah,
sound behind me, so.
there was sound behind me though. I had forgot to mute my TV.
Oh,
So,
well.
yes.
Hi, Ed.
Hi, Ain. Okay, and just Steve.
Oh, we're recording? Sorry, I was working on my amazing Ox to Bat tank build.
Shots fired.
Shots fired. Hello, just Steve. How you doing today?
Doing well, doing well.
Okay. So, today we're looking at a Ouroboros class Temporal Raider. So this ship is very maneuverable and um, very versatile because it has all universals, so you can make it anything you wish. So, what are your thoughts as you guys look at this build?
And just on the ship alone, honestly, I think it looks like it's flying backwards, just like the Nanny.
I think it looks like a futuristic Batwing or a Stingray of some kind.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the
Yep.
Tadari Raider.
Yeah.
Yep,
But no, it's a great ship. I've flown it a few times on a couple of my tunes, and cannons, of course, and it's a lot of fun to fly.
It is. It is. I really like it. Like I said, it's very, very maneuverable, very fast ship. Um, Now, as I look at this gear he has here, he's got, very good start. He's got anti-proton dual beam banks with crit D3 damage. Very nice. He's got the full Iconian set. Again, very, very nice for DPS. And a bit tanky as well. Alright, so as we look at the aft weapons, though, what interests me, and I'm looking down at the consoles as well, he's got the kinetic cutting beam, but he doesn't have the assimilated module to finish off the two-piece. What are you guys' thoughts?
Well, I think,
Scrap it and go for a crafted.
yeah, exactly.
For a crafted omnidirectional, because he does have the ancient Omni as his other aft weapon. There we go.
Yeah,
Finally got
definitely.
it to come up. So yeah. So I'm thinking definitely a craft omnidirectional here. So let's clear that.
I'm just noticing the amount of threat this is gonna pull.
It is. It's going to pull quite a bit of thread.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so
The only
okay,
thing I can say is,
go ahead.
with this, I don't have any of the temporal ships. I have no intention of getting temporal ships. So, I have no idea what these consoles do. Freely admit that. But,
Well,
me personally,
okay.
devices, why the large auxiliary?
Yeah, that's what I was
I'm
thinking as well.
I'm thinking it might be to boost the, because if you look at his bridge officer abilities, he's got a feedback pulse 1 and a gravity well 1, as well as the timeline collapse 3. So I'm thinking it's possibly to boost those 3.
Well, I mean, if we get into his skill tree here in a little bit, there'll be a way to boost that auxiliary power without the need for that.
Yes.
And I don't know what Ain was thinking, but I was personally thinking replacing that aux battery with a reactive armor catalyst just to add a little more survivability, since it is a raider pulling so much threat.
I can
Yeah.
agree to that. And plus, because he has dual beam banks, he's gonna be, as Kirby likes to say, parking and sparkling a fair amount.
Yeah.
So just adding more threat, and then because he has this, I actually haven't looked at his traits yet. Does he run? He does. He runs anchored, so he's debuffing himself.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, he is giving himself a damage bonus at the same time as debuffing. That's the drawback and plus side of anchored. Why do you want to drag so much threat?
Well, I'm thinking the reason is because he's also running feedback pulse.
Yeah, but when feedback pulse runs out, raiders don't have very many hit points.
Mm-hmm. This is very true. They don't, and you're already going to be attracting a lot of threat with the gravity
Grab
well
well.
and possibly the timeline collapse. But I'm thinking it's for that feedback pulse.
Yeah. It's
I do
with
wonder
these. I
about the
have.
survivability.
Yeah, that's the only thing I'm worried about. When I have a lot of raiders. The only two raiders in the game I don't have are this little guy, all of the Klingon ones, or the Jim'Hadar attack ship, the bug
Mm-hmm.
ship. I know it's not a raider, but I call it a raider.
True.
But I always have issues with survivability. I never have issues with drawing threat, even if I have negative threat consoles. And EPG on these consoles, you only have 3 exotic damage abilities. And even with all that EPG added on, your feedback pulse and gravel are not going to do much. I can understand keeping the gravel for the skill tree, for the. I am not a fan of this new setup. For control amplification, where control abilities debuff the target, any target affected by the control ability. So gravel plus plus. It's just
Hmm.
I can't justify having EPG plus threat consoles.
So what are you thinking?
Oh, I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm gonna make a point here. I know it was said in one of the video comments. I don't know which one, and I don't know who said it, but you know, you could have a fully epicked out Mark 14 gold ship with all the bells and whistles, beautifully upgraded, tried and true, but if you can't fly it, there's no point to all that. Kirby, for instance, you were bad. Let's just put it that way. You were bad before you learned how to actually fly your ship, and then you had what, a 30K boost just from learning how to fly.
Well, part of that was I wasn't using keybinds. I was activating everything manually, and with my disability, that was very difficult. So once I learned how to do the did that keybind application for all the things that you want up all the time, and how to do that correctly, that just shot me through the roof.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but okay, I just lost my train of thought.
But that
Yeah.
goes back
When
to ability activation. Anyway.
yeah, when we say you hear everybody say piloting, 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 and a lot of people think it's just getting your ship in the right place and knowing when to move. It's not just that. Piloting is a lot more. It's a lot of thinking. It's a lot of timing. Yeah, you have to be in the right place at the right time, but you need to know what abilities to activate when, where to activate them. Yeah, that's piloting right there. That's the whole nutshell of it. And
Yeah.
if you don't understand your ship and how it needs to fly to be the best it can be, well, you're not going to get your ship to the best it can be. And there's varying levels of knowledge of how to pilot certain ships. Take Odin Knight and myself and teacher Kirby. I mean, you could say we're probably the foremost torpedo build players. Odin is, averaging. God, what's he averaging now? I don't remember.
A
Oh,
ridiculous amount of
yeah,
DPS.
Yeah, he's
somewhere
averaging
near
something there.
150, something like that.
I took a break from my torpedo build for a while. The last I used it, I was averaging, just right up there with Odin at like 100k back when he was down there. And I put it on today, and I hadn't played with this torpedo build in almost a year, almost. And I was crap. I'm talking about I went from, usually doing 100k prior to I'm only doing 40k now. And, I've been playing it all day and I'm slowly getting it back up to where I remember when I need to activate my torp spread or my high yield or when I need to activate my concentrate firepowers. It's all timing. You can have the greatest, upgraded ship, but it means nothing if you don't know how to fly it. That's my 2 cents.
Hmm. It's a good 2 cents, and it's a good point that that's what it comes down to. And I do wonder with the plus threat consoles how the survivability is, and if there's maybe something we can do to get DPS similar to what that feedback pulse might be doing, but do it without having to draw threat, and maybe that thereby increasing the survivability.
Mm-hmm.
You
I
know what I
mean,
mean?
yeah. I mean, it harkens
So
back to what I just said.
yeah,
He might know something we don't.
he might.
There's
Well,
a
he
there's a way
he
he flies
probably knows
his.
that feedback pulse is still cheesy and it's
It is
still
very cheesy.
capable of doing big numbers. But
Hmm.
with that said, got to know how to use feedback pulse properly to get those big numbers that people are posting up on YouTube and getting these ridiculous parses. But with a Raider, I don't know if it's the best thing to run just
Yeah.
because you have to get so much threat to kind of achieve those numbers that maybe he's looking for. I personally don't think that the build can handle that.
So what I'm thinking is maybe replace the threat amplifiers with threat nullifiers. Leave them EPG
Mm-hmm.
so that they do um, so that they do boost the exotic particle things, and put in, instead of feedback pulse, put in destabilizing resonance beam.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
That or even a science team.
No, I wouldn't go with the science team. I would go with the DRB, or as I like to call it, lens flared will. I swear they created that ability strictly for the JJ fans.
And of course, okay, there we go.
User joined your
And
channel.
getting it up. Hello, user. Would that be Ed?
Now you show up.
That would
Damn
be
it,
it.
man. Late
Hi,
show as
Ed.
ever.
Hello.
All right, Ed, do you have the link or do I need to send it to you?
I think I bookmarked it yesterday, actually. Maybe I've got
Okay. So Ed's late to the party, but that's okay. We can live with that. So we were just going over the Ouroboros class Temporal Raider Ed. And we were just discussing, I mean, he's got a good base of gear. We did take out the kinetic cutting beam and put in a crafted omnidirectional. We changed out the aux battery for reactive armor catalyst. And we were just changing out the the weapon signature amplifiers to put in weapon signature nullifiers. And we were just discussing how that would mean we have to change over feedback pulse 1 to maybe destabilizing resonance beam 1.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Anne.
I am the
Anne beat me
secretary.
to it, my secretary. All right. So yeah, so that brings you up to date. He is using, now for those of you that aren't familiar with it, and I was just going to take a look at it. So that chronotachyon capacitor, it's actually quite nice. It does give a little bit of hull capacity. It does give some starship engineering readiness. It does taunt the foe, so it will help with that feedback pulse if he's going to use it. But it also gives, after the point where it taunts the foe, it does give a large bonus to energy damage for 15 seconds, a pretty good bonus to crit chance and crit severity, also for 15 seconds. So, and of course, that depends on how many stacks of chronotachyon capacitance you are able to build during that 15-second taunt.
One of the
Okay?
things I was going to ask is, do we
Yes.
have any past figures for this build before when we
Looks
were
like
talking
No.
about it?
his highest DPS is about 30k.
On
Okay.
ISA.
Yes, on ISA. And then of course what was it? The tactical system stabilizer gives firing haste and a passive bonus to energy weapons and tactical readiness, as well as the two-piece bonus of 10% directed energy damage and 3% maximum hit points for the two-piece set. So that's why he's running those. There we go. And back to our build. So, because Ain was asking earlier, what do those two consoles do? So there you go. Alright, and I would say we're on to bridge officer ability. Any thoughts here, guys? Other than we did say we were going to trade out that feedback pulse for a destabilizing resonance beam. There we go.
Right, I know I'm a little bit late to the party, but I wouldn't myself. Right, it's reason being is, in order to make best use of destabilized resonance beam, he's going to need to have a gravel there.
He does.
But let me just jump ship, because I've got a build for this that works really well. Bridge
Okay.
officer layout. Make sure it's the same ship first.
The Ouroboros Temporal Raider. All universals.
Yes. I think I've flipped it around a little bit differently. Do you remember the other night we done an ISA and I was in a Temporal Raider?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was it was reasonably high DPS. It was around 90 mark. That was the one with where it pulled 49% of the threat.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So I can give you the stations layout on that, and you can tell me what you think.
Okay.
So, in the commander temporal slot, I put attack officer with temporal training, with tac
Okay.
team, pattern beta, fire at will, and then recursive shearing 3.
Okay.
I put in a second tac officer into one of the lieutenant commander slots with
Okay.
keen sight lace weaponry 1, focused assault 1, and attack pattern omega 1. And I am taking advantage of the 2 ZMOCs. Cooldowns on those.
Okay.
The third lieutenant commander was science, and there I used the science team hazard emitters 2, feedback pulse 2. And then an engineer with emergency powder weapons and engineering team. Sorry, it's the other way around, so it's emergency powder weapons 2. But that is also a Krenim officer. So he benefits from the cooldown on that as well. And I do use threatening stance from the beginning of a match to assist with the cooldowns from the attrition warfare.
Okay.
And because I'm also using maxed out science consoles to draw threat, I make good use of the feedback pulse. And the science officer is also a Krenim. And I've got a couple of points in scientific readiness as well. So a little bit of a boost there. And it works rather well.
It does. It is some big
But
changes to the build.
it's expensive because you need the ZMOX. Now, if
Yeah.
you want to go down the cheaper route, we can do. We'll go that way. But there is the option if you want to rewind and just listen to those bridge officers, and you've got 2 ZMOX, you can do that.
Well,
I mean, with that said, Ed,
User left your channel.
Sorry?
not to take shots at anybody, but you are a 100K player who's
I know,
used
but
to flying raiders that can draw threat.
I know that, and that's why I'm saying there is an alternative there, and we can discuss that. But if the captain has the resources and can put in those skills with those officers, that is the potential of what the ship can do. And you've got to bear in mind that character is a science, not an engineer or attack. But the skills are very, very similar in the way that the points have been spent.
go ahead, Steve.
Oh no, I was just throwing that out there.
I don't know. I mean, I look at this and I'm thinking it doesn't need a whole lot of change. I think it has a lot of DPS potential the way he has it. But I do think he could get maybe a little more. Seeing this is what I'm wondering if he could get a little more if he had maybe still using the 2 ZMOX. But or maybe even just putting in a couple energy weapons officers to cool down the fire at will.
That would help.
And then putting in maybe recursive shearing on the lieutenant temporal operative.
Yeah. His duty officers he's running, in case you didn't know, are in his notes.
Oh, okay.
So he's running 1 ZMOC, and he's running energy weapons officers that stack crit chance and crit severity.
Ah, okay. It's stack crit chance, okay. Yep, I see it. And he's got 2 damage control engineers for the emergency powered weapon.
Or space warfare specialist.
Yeah. Now see, I mean, what I'm wondering there is if that's getting the emergency powered weapons 3 cooled down. I mean, I'm just wondering if the DEM is actually benefiting him.
Yeah, I don't think it is.
Neither do I.
User joined your channel. Hey, wake up.
I'm thinking
User left your
either
channel.
a second emergency power to weapons or maybe an emergency power to shields.
Both would benefit. I mean, the shield hill would be good because there is no shield hill in science. There's no science team, which I would admit is a nice cleanse as well.
Yeah, it is.
Well, the one thing, if he's using this build specifically for Borg STFs, the shield's pretty much worthless, in my opinion. Because they're going to drain your shields no matter what.
That is a good point.
I mean, even if you're running reverse shield polarity with fabrication engineer. You're still getting trained like crazy.
That is true. I mean, we could put emergency power to ox in there, and that would give him some help
Maybe.
for the
What about
gravel
Ox to
and the
Sith?
destabilizer.
That's what I'm
We
thinking.
could do
Drop it,
that
drop it
too.
around. Do emergency powered weapons 2 and Ox to Sith at the higher level.
Ooh,
Yeah.
interesting. It would give him a better hull heal, but it would lower the bonus from the emergency power to weapons a bit.
It's only a small decrease.
True.
Which with survivability could almost balance out.
Alright, so ox to Sif, where are you? There it is. Okay. So, I mean, I don't really have a problem with the science skills he has. I like the gravel with the DRB. It's going to give some nice exotic damage. Plus the gravel, I'm thinking what he's doing, at least what I would do, what I see with this, because he's got the timeline collapse, which has a pull, but not a very, it doesn't look like it's a very strong pull. And it's only got a 3 kilometer range. So I'm thinking what I would do with this is throw out the gravity well, then throw out the timeline collapse, and then throw out the DRB as well. And do that trifecta, and you'd get a really good amount of damage. You'd get a good debuff with the DRB. You'd get a lot of things in that timeline collapse. It's very similar to what we do with gravel and subspace vortex.
Are you really going to get more damage, though, running Timeline Collapse as opposed to that OP skill Recursive Shearing at the moment?
That's a good question. That is a very good question.
That
I
skill's
think that's
beautiful.
going to depend on the team that you're with. Really. What we could do if we can get the beam fire at will cooled down, then we could put in a recursive shearing in the lieutenant operative, or the lieutenant temporal operative.
I believe
Down at
it
the bottom.
starts at Lieutenant Commander, doesn't it?
Does it have to do? Oh, you might be right. Let me double check. So many skills.
Yeah, Recursive Shearing 1 is a Lieutenant
Okay.
Commander.
See, all my skills. Too many things to remember. Alright. Yep, you're right. Recursive sharing 1. If we were going to do that, we'd have to put it on the commander temporal operative. So we'd be using fire at will 2 and put recursive sharing 1 where fire at will 3 is. What do you guys think?
I quite like the high level recursive shearing.
The recursive sharing 3
Yeah.
instead of the timeline collapse.
Now,
Go ahead.
no, yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, Recursive Shearing is just an amazing ability.
Yeah, it is.
Nice high
I mean,
numbers for it
honestly,
as
I
well.
haven't monkeyed around too much with Timeline Collapse, but seems to be the the current meta with these temporal builds.
This is true. Very, very true. And that does leave the fire at will 2 and fire at will 3 intact. Okay. Alright, any other
User
thoughts?
joined your channel.
Welcome back, eh?
Thank you.
No, I think that sounds good.
Yeah, I think it looks good.
Okay.
Beauteous.
Beautiful.
No.
All right. So then his duty officers, he said he had a ZMOC.
He's got ZMOC.
So that's con officer, and that is. There we go. One single ZMOC. Very rare. Okay.
He's
And
got.
then he had 2 damage control.
Yeah, he's got 2 damage control engineers.
Alright, putting those in. And as you can see, this is very easy to use. Recharge time. There we go. Okay.
And then he's running 2 energy weapon officers. One that has the chance for crit severity, one has the chance for crit chance. Gotta love
Alright,
that
so they don't have the crit
chance.
severity ones.
No.
Reduce recharge time. Nope. They don't have those.
And then his last one is the Space Warfare Specialist versus Borg.
Okay, space warfare. Space warfare. And increase damage versus Borg on space maps. There we
Yeah.
go. Okay. Purple.
I do think that Spaceball Warfare Specialist has the most unfortunate name. He actually sounds like some form of window cleaner.
Yes, I agree there.
It does.
And I've heard it pronounced so many different ways. I'm not even going to attempt to say Delirene.
Alright, so I was going to take a quick look at traits, the personal traits and the starship traits. I'm looking at these, and these look very good. I mean, we're seeing ablative shell, nice heal, anchored, very nice buff, especially if you like to park and sparkle. And then beam barrage, beam training, fluidic cocoon, very nice. Particle manipulator, very nice if you're doing any kind of science.
The best trait.
Yes.
Inspirational leader.
Inspirational leader. And let me see, operative. And point blank shot. Very nice set of traits.
Well,
And then starship traits, the Fab Five.
Yep.
I like to call them, yeah.
Yep, the Fab Five.
Yep.
No complaints.
Yeah, no complaints here. You got emergency weapon cycle, which is going to speed up your firing haste. Supremacy, which is going to give him lots of extra power. Target rich environment, very, very nice. Invincibility or invincible, which is going to give him basically a get out of jail free card when his hull gets down to 0. And all hands on deck, which is going to help to cool off those science abilities and captain abilities. As for his space reputation, still very nice. We got controlled countermeasures, so he deals additional damage against targets affected by controlling effects. He's got the Nukara offensive. He's got precision, which gives him extra crit chance. He's got advanced targeting systems, which gives him crit severity. And he's got energy refrequencer, which will help him to stay alive. And then he's of course got the active reputation for space, awesome. So all that's left is the skill tree.
Now, thanks to you, I have the song that I forget the song, but it has that line: "Staying alive, staying alive."
But quickly, while we're on the reputation, one
Yeah.
thing that I will, with the actual space reputation,
Yeah.
the control countermeasures.
Yes.
I must say that that is only active whilst your target is under control, both for the
Yes, it is.
duration of the control and ability. So it'd be one of those ones that I would pull numbers from it by doing testing. I think that the enhanced armor penetration would also benefit in that position because it's every single weapon, every single fire.
I would agree with
Very
that.
true.
I mean,
So I
it's not
think
like
over the
he's
course of
throwing
the
grab
match,
wells
yeah,
out like crazy.
yeah,
So
I think over the course of the match, if he's passing purely for numbers, into like an ISA, or a DPSM, then yeah, it would work. But it's one of those ones you have to pull the figures on it to see because it's very dependent on piloting as well. And the variability in the match.
Yes. Very, very true.
I tend to use that more when I'm doing like a CCA or something where I'm doing real massive mod control, and I am running, trying to get globals on the science abilities like the Gravwell. Then yes, I would definitely use that.
All
I had one
right.
But
other one.
Go
No,
ahead.
no one will probably agree with me with it, but on his personal space traits, he's running anchored.
yes,
You're on
I
a
I was
raider.
I was going to mention that.
I don't. Hey,
I
hey,
was thinking
I
something
use
maybe.
anchored on a raider.
Yes, Ain, but you talk about yourself in the third person.
Yeah, so you've already
Aim does
lost your
not
mind.
do that. It works, I swear.
Yeah, I don't
Oh,
know.
it will
Personally, I
work.
was thinking maybe throw in maybe self-modulating fire on that.
Instead of
And
anchor.
yeah, but
Yeah.
that's only for a short period of time. Then you have such a long reload
Or
time with
even
that
the fact
ability.
It
with
does.
his survivability, and he's an engineer, Grace Under Fire, something
Or
to help his healing out a little bit.
I
if
think
we were
my
going to switch
issue, yeah,
anything out for, if we were going to switch anything out for Grace Under Fire, get rid of the beam training because that's doing the least out
possibly,
of
yeah.
everything.
I mean, I would say I would
I just see
leave
it as
anchored because
uh,
it's such a big buff though.
it's so sacrilegious running that on a raider, though. Come on, you guys are killing me.
I am sacrilegious, but hey.
I
You also
know.
can't say coffee right, so.
What's wrong with coffee? It's a cup of coffee, okay?
So we're thinking maybe beam training for Grace Under Fire.
Yes.
I could see doing that. Yeah. There we go. All right. So beam training for Grace Under Fire because it's not that much of a. I mean, you can justify the difference there because that gives you an extra oh shit button. So
Good to have.
versus the yeah. Yep, gives you an extra chance for the oh shit. So, all right, skills, skill tree. This is not bad. He's already got the science ultimate. Yay. Oh, so I'm looking at
Definitely
this.
need to
Go
pull
ahead.
that point out of drain infection
Yeah,
and targeting
I would.
expertise.
I would pull the point out of drain infection. I would put it in shield capacity, so that gives him a little bit more there. You really don't need the targeting expertise. I'm also thinking he really doesn't need the shield weakening because
Exactly.
again, shields go
Any of it.
down fairly quickly. I would like to see that in the crit severity,
Yep.
the weapon amplification there.
Fill that out.
hmm And then, what do you guys think about the improved impulse expertise?
I honestly think he doesn't need any points in it, being that he's in a
Um,
raider.
I don't think he
I
needs
think
it,
Ed
yeah.
might disagree with that, maybe.
no,
But
no, I'd agree with it as well. I also think you could possibly lose the full impulse energy shunt.
Yeah,
yeah,
same here.
Okay,
I
yeah.
had that going away as well.
And then I'm thinking that leaves us 5 points.
I'd like
I
to see
I
definitely
threw
some points at the Admiral level, warp core potential and warp core efficiency.
yeah.
Yes. That's what I was thinking as well. And then
I was
maybe,
thinking of throwing a point up in hull capacity,
Yes, most definitely.
and then maybe a point in defensive subsystems tuning and offensive.
yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. And that gives him a little more power in each subsystem and a bigger boost to his shield and shield and engine subsystem. I mean, so as you can see, not a lot of changes. I mean, we tweaked a little. Specialization. I can see the temporal operative as the primary. Intel is secondary.
No.
Oh,
No.
no. Strategist.
Strategists all the way.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking as well. Strategist is secondary. Just because it gives you, I mean, whether you're threatening or not, it gives you a number of boosts that you just,
There's
you
just
know,
too much
yeah,
survivability with it to ignore it.
there is.
On almost any build, it's pretty much slot your primary and then slot strategist.
Yeah,
So
Yes, agreed. Not to say that,
because
not to say that intelligence secondary is not bad, because you still get flanking.
actually, no, you don't get flanking
no,
until tier 3.
tier 3.
Oh, is it tier 3?
Yep.
This is what happens when you only run intelligence as primary.
However, he's in a raider, so he has improved raider flanking.
This is true.
He does. Yes, he does.
So I can see why you go temporal operative and strategist quite easily and still get
Yep.
flanking.
Yeah. So you get basically the best of everything. You still get the flanking with the raider. You get temporal operative. You get the strategist. Yeah. I mean, this is what I'm thinking, and you guys agree. Yay!
You
All
had no
right.
choice. We told you to have a big
Yep.
whip today, Kirby.
And then, of
People do agree
course,
with you
ground.
sometimes.
I know, right? Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right. So then, of course, ground, top left, bottom right, bring a hypo.
Or
Yeah,
triple.
but we're going to bring on a guest soon that wants to talk about ground.
Yes.
Yeah, and they've been discussing some different tactics that can be used.
Interesting.
Something we might talk about at one point.
Yes.
It's one of the things that people never really ask for is a ground build. But I was talking to some people earlier on that were almost getting quite into it.
Yes. So, this has been our attempt at the Ouroboros class Temporal Raider. Okay. And so we're going to save. We're going to make this link searchable. And we're going to rename it not who gives a blank. We're going to rename it to.
Wait, what is this ship named?
Uh-oh.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Something weird just happened. There
What
we
did you
go. Let's
break
try
this
this
time?
again. Everything. Nothing.
Oh no, Kirby broke the inter.
Alright, Temporal Raider episode 5. There we go. And so we have saved it. It is searchable under Utopia Planitia on the on the STO Academy Skill Planner. So this has been Teacher Kirby, Ain, Ed, and Just Steve.
You know, we need to rename you. That way we can just
I
go,
know.
and a guy just named Steve.
So if you'd like to submit your build for our consideration, you can either send an in-game email to any of the hosts or send us a out-of-game email at utopiaplanitiashow@gmail.com. The written form of all that will be appearing on your screen soon. Say goodnight, folks.
Good night, folks.
Well, it's
Don't-
afternoon for me, so good afternoon.
Don't forget to microwave your tea. Good night.
Shush you.
Good